1:38 o'clock.
Let's turn the microphone on. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Let me play the top of the hour info for you.
Broadcasting across Australia on Dare Media Group radio stations, this is the Sportcat Show, uncovering secret chapters, strange encounters,
and the occasional technical mishap.
Yes, but no technical mishap this week. We are up and running and doing well. Cold here in Atlanta. Let me bring my beautiful and lovely sidekick out here, Ms. Harley. Welcome. Good morning to everyone in Australia. You can come over and find us, Dare Talk Media, or to the Sportcat Show, and join the chat. We've got a really good chat going tonight. Tonight's first guest, I was kind of nervous, so I'm glad he checked in early. David Sloan. He's a legend in Key West, and he's written several books, and you might recognize somebody seated behind him. So let me bring him out. David, welcome. Let me move this here.
Hey.
How are you?
It's great to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. We are honored to have you here, to be honest with you. When I messaged you, I was told Harley, I was like, he's never going to answer me back.
Of course. I'm a big fan.
Oh, well, thank you. I do appreciate it. We're just a little guy trying to grow. So, David, you have published how many books?
I think I'm close to 30, about 25 or 30. There's really about 12 or 13 though that are the mainstays, the very popular ones that they're somewhat evergreen and continue to sell year after year, that people really enjoy here in Key West.
Yeah. I bought my mom the Key West Key Lime cookbook. I bought that for mom, so for
great.
Yeah, so she's always trying to make a perfect one. And you're not native to Key West. You're from Texas, correct? And you?
Yeah, I was actually born in Pennsylvania. I was raised in Texas, and I've been in Key West. This year marks 30 years in Key West. So I feel very fortunate that I was. I don't feel like it was my choice to be here. I feel like I was really led, and so I feel very fortunate.
Yeah, well, that is paradise. If anybody's, if nobody has ever been there, wait a minute, if anybody's, whatever, if you've never been to Key West, go. You got to do it once in your life at least. It's a beautiful place. And in fact, we were talking about this. You also published the book about sell everything and move to Key West. So
yeah, quit your job and move to Key West.
That sounds amazing right now with the way it is here in Ohio. Sell it all and move.
Yeah,
it's too cold.
And it's really cool because with that one, I keep running into people who say, hey, I bought your book and I did it. I've met now after 30 years, I've probably met over 1,000 people who read the book and actually did it and said, yeah, well, let's give it a try.
That's awesome. Well, Harley, sell everything. Let's go. We're on the way.
Yeah, let's go.
The only thing you have to worry about down there is falling iguanas. So you don't have to worry about the snow.
Yeah, and we don't even get cold enough for that. It's really cool.
It gets so cold here that birds just fall out of the sky and die.
Wow. Yeah, I was reading.
It's like we've had. Yeah, it gets that cold here, and like it got so cold they weren't expecting it to hit as cold as it did. That some birds were still here, and they were just.
That's too cold. Well, one of the things that were you an investigative reporter at any point?
Yeah, well, I've always been a researcher, or
Okay.
I've always enjoyed researching. My dad was a genealogist, so early on I enjoyed digging things up. And then, I've worked for different newspapers, but what really got me into the research was when I started the ghost tours in Key West, digging up the haunted history, because a lot of the ghosts, they were almost like cold cases where you're thinking, okay, well, why is that ghost still here? And you had the legends that people were telling. But at that time, there weren't all these research archives available. And so it became a lot of fun trying to solve these mysteries in Key West. And through that, I kind of gained those cold case investigative skills.
Wow. Have Chris wants to know if you've ever seen the Key West dinosaur. It's a guy that blows up like a costume in I think it was New Year's Eve. No, it was during a hurricane. We turned on during one of the shows, and we turned it on. And it was like, what? There's a dinosaur there.
Yep. Yeah, we've got some great characters down here.
It's awesome. So was that how you discovered the link between the Kennedys and Key West, or was that you had an idea already?
It was really strange because probably the biggest cold case in the Florida Keys is about a missing fire chief named Bum Farto. That's his real name. He was Joseph Bum Farto, and he was a very colorful character. He always dressed in red. He practiced Santeria. In 1975, he was arrested for delivery of cocaine and marijuana.
Wow.
And they had this big bust. It was called Operation Conch. And there were over 20 people who went down, including the city attorney and the fire chief, who was Bum Farto. And so this really made huge news. And when he was, during his trial, he was convicted. But that's where it got interesting, because they brought in a special judge. They brought him out of retirement to hear the case. And then he said, well, I'm going to hold off on sentencing. So we're going to let you out on bond until we investigate a few more things. And from what I've discovered, the judge told Farto, you better disappear, boy. And that's exactly what he did. February 16th will be 50 years to the day since he's disappeared. And when he left, all of these rumors started to swirl. People had T-shirts that said, "Where is Bum Farto?" Jimmy Buffett wrote a song that included a line about Bum Farto. And people said, oh, the Colombians killed him. He's, sleeping with the fish with the concrete shoes. Other people said the Tampa Mafia threw him out into the Everglades out of an airplane. And other people said, no, he escaped. So me and a friend, I obtained the FBI files on Bum Farto through a FOIA request. And my friend and I, we made up our minds we were going to solve the case, and we followed the FBI files. And we solved that case, but when we were doing it, I came across these incredible things, because a lot of these characters who were involved with the missing fire chief were also in the Kennedy assassination files. Ooh. And there's over 6 million pages there, and a lot of it centers around the activities in the Florida Keys. And I saw that Jack Ruby was running guns out of a motel room in Isla Mirada. And I thought, no, it can't be. And then I see another report, and it talked about Lee Harvey Oswald on a boat with Cuban exiles in Marathon, Florida, which is part of the Florida Keys, and that he made a phone call to Jack Ruby from the house there. And I thought, no, it can't be. Then there's a report of Jack Ruby and Lee Harvey Oswald together in the Key West airport as part of the Fair Play for Cuba committee. The report was from the airport director, who I knew of as a very well-respected man in Key West. And that's when I started thinking, this is too many reports for it to be a coincidence. And he had passed away, but the investigation talked about him having a photograph of Lee Harvey Oswald and Jack Ruby. So I tracked down his wife, and I said, do you know anything about this? And she said, oh, yeah, it's all true. I still have the photo somewhere. And I asked her, I said, do you think I could come over and we could look for it? And she said, well, I'm not in great health right now, but when I'm feeling better, we certainly can. And she passed away before we had the opportunity. But that conversation made me realize, there's definitely something to this. And I kind of switched gears away from Bum Farto and full force into the Kennedy investigation. And the stuff that I found, I mean, it really blew my mind because I know a lot about Key West history. You know, I feel like I know most of the stories people are telling. And this is stuff that I had never heard.
It's almost like you discovered the top secret files.
Yeah, I mean, I still look at it and think how unbelievable it is. You know, and it was a very interesting time when you look at the Cold War. Key West has a very unique location, you know, because we're closer to Cuba than we are to Miami. And when Castro took over, you know, there was a big change and there was a huge threat to Key West. You know, there was the big nuclear scare, everything with the Cuban Missile Crisis. There was the failed Bay of Pigs invasion. And what you ended up with, the CIA built the largest covert base in the world right at the gateway to the Florida Keys. You know, it's up in Miami. It was called JM Wave. And they had about 3,000 paid agents. And then they had another 15 to 20,000 Cuban exiles on the payroll. And they say it was the third largest Navy in the Caribbean. So pretty much the Florida Keys were this battleground for these covert wars where you had the Cubans, the Soviets, CIA, the Cuban exiles, and the Tampa Mafia. And when you got them all together, it became a really interesting game of cat and mouse. And it turned out that all of them had reasons to hate John F. Kennedy.
Chris says, I can't believe with my incredible immaturity, I've never heard of Bum Farto until now. I feel cheated.
Don't worry, Chris. We've got, you know, I'm actually finishing up the first book about that, and it's called Who is Bum Farto? Because a lot of times people reduce him to a caricature. You know, they'll make fun of his name, which everybody does the first time they hear it. But then they'll only talk about a few different things. They'll talk about how he always wore red, and they'll mention that he had red underwear. They rarely mention that he was devoted to Santa Barbara and Shango, Santeria gods, and they're the protectors of firefighters. So he was a very deep person, and people in Key West either loved him or hated him. And I've talked to hundreds of people who knew him, and it's pretty interesting because the ones who liked him, they'll say, oh, you know, he had both sides, but he said, but he was a good man. And then the people who hate him will say, no, he was horrible. Everybody hated him. But the fact is, he's a very complex man, and the things that he went through growing up are enough to make anybody a different person. So
Sure.
I'm really digging into that. And the first book's going to cover everything up through the trial, up until he left. And then the beginning of next year, I'll reveal what happened to him.
Okay. You're going to have to come back.
You've got time, Chris.
You're going to have to come back for that one.
Yeah.
Because he started as a volunteer firefighter and worked his way up to fire chief. And I think I told you the message. I'm a firefighter paramedic retired. And so, yeah, I was going to have a huge interest in that. So, yeah, I will definitely, we want you back.
Yeah, absolutely.
We could have you back over a myriad of things. I was thinking about this morning. If you wanted to say the most interesting man you've ever met, it would have to be you, in my opinion, with all the stories and things and that you've done. It's incredible.
Well, I appreciate that. Wait till we get together for a few drinks and you hear the real stories.
I'm on the way. But yeah, I mean it, because you've got the haunted tours, the haunted fire station, our friend behind you, almost afraid to say his name, and these stories in addition to cooking. And by the way, are you a chef or?
I was a baker when I was 16. You know, I was a counter boy in a restaurant that made their own hamburger buns and things like that. And then the baker was narcoleptic, and he fell asleep when he was carrying a tray of buns over to the oven. And when he went down, he broke both of his wrists. And the manager said, "Hey, David, you want to be a baker?" I said, "I don't know how to bake." and I think I was making like $3.35 an hour at the time. And he said it pays $8 an hour. I'm like, I'll have the buns ready by lunchtime. And so as a kid, I learned to bake, and we had the pastry case that we had to fill up. And it was all open cooking, you know, like everybody having lunch could watch you baking. And the ovens, there just wasn't enough oven space. They didn't heat evenly. So I'm flipping things around. And this lady could see the issues that I was having. And she told me that I should make key lime pies because they didn't require baking. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. You know, I'm 16 years old. I didn't care. And then she slipped a recipe by my time card later that week. And so I made key lime pies when I was there, but never expected it would lead to other things. But I ended up going to college in Miami for hospitality management. So I worked under some great chefs, and I know my way around kitchens, but it was never a full-time profession.
Wow. And did you have the original key lime pie, or is that
it's interesting. When I came to Key West, I was looking for ghosts, and I went to the Curry Mansion, which, great old mansion. And I thought, oh, there's got to be ghosts here. And what I found in the kitchen, they had some cards printed out, and they said, this is the birthplace of key lime pie. And they said it was invented by a lady named Aunt Sally. And when I saw that, I was like, no way, I made key lime pie before. And I asked them, I said, who's Aunt Sally? And they said, well, nobody knows. And I said, I'm going to find out. And so, so that was an early cold case that I worked on. And that was great because it sent me into that whole fascinating world of key lime pie, which people take very seriously in Key West. And I was able to identify who I believe is the original Aunt Sally. The theory that I have is better than anything else out there. And there's a number of points that line up to say, yeah, that's probably her.
That's awesome. That bakery, was that the same one that I've read somewhere that some of the connection was through a bakery in Key West? Is that the same one that you have mentioned in the JFK books?
No. So that one, that was the Perez Bakery here in Key West. When I worked as a baker, that's interesting. I never even made that connection that we were both bakers. But I was in Texas, oddly enough, about 15 miles away from where Kennedy was assassinated. I was over in Addison, Texas, as a baker.
Okay. All right. Well, you certainly could take claim to it. I don't know that anybody would argue with you that you have the original key lime pie.
Yeah.
So in the best. So, well, I think everybody advertises the best there. So
everybody does. And the great thing about key lime pie, they're all different. And I think as long as people actually make it there, because some people will buy one from the big food producers and it'll taste okay. But I think when you're in Key West, you really want to get a real key lime pie. And there's so many people that do it with their own little twist. And they're all fantastic.
I can't eat it.
Why not?
I'm allergic to citrus.
Oh, you definitely shouldn't eat it then.
Yeah.
Killer.
Glenn sent me some jelly once for one of our guests, and it had lemon in it. And I tried it and didn't realize it, and I started instantly just breaking out, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I look at the ingredients, and I'm like, there's lemon in this.
I tried to kill her live on the air. We were trying to get clipped.
It'd be interesting publicity.
Yeah, no kidding.
We'd have a lot of views that night.
Yeah. So
I know you have a lot of people in Australia listening. If they've never tasted key lime or key lime pie, because I don't know if key limes are available over there, but if they're not, a lot of people use a Persian lime and a lemon and use equal parts of lime juice and lemon juice, and that'll kind of duplicate the flavor and the acidity of a key lime.
See, were you a bartender by any chance at any time?
I spent a lot of time at bars.
Yeah. Well, you had that concoction right there.
There you go, to our Australian listeners.
Yeah, and if anybody in Australia wants to fly me over to to teach you how to make the pies, I'd be willing to make that sacrifice.
We have been lobbying to get a GoFundMe to have them fly us over and put us up for one show. So there you go. We'd have you and my friend the hypnotist there, and we just hypnotize you and get the whole story. So
I'm in.
So you published some of the first photos, some obscure ones, didn't you?
With the JFK book.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. So people not familiar with it. Everybody knows Lee Harvey Oswald. He's supposed to be the shooter. When you go through the files, there's another person who's suspected of playing a role in the assassination, and his name is Gilberto Policarpo Lopez. And he came over from Cuba in 1960. He came to Key West, where he worked as a baker. His was from Key West. He married a Key West woman, and then he moved to Tampa just before President Kennedy was there. And then right after Kennedy left, the night that Kennedy was assassinated, Gilberto Lopez crossed the border from Texas into Mexico. And then he boarded a flight a few days later to Cuba, where he was the only passenger. And word came from Mexico. They said, this guy is a suspect in the Kennedy assassination. Now, the thing that happened, the CIA had some files on him. The FBI had some files on them. They did not share this with the Warren Commission. And later, when there were later investigations, they said, what the hell's wrong with you guys? That's a huge oversight. So this guy of key interest, but he disappeared. He wasn't heard from since 1964. And one of the things they say about him is he has so many parallels to Lee Harvey Oswald. They were both involved with the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. They both traveled to these communist countries. The route that Lopez took out of Texas is the same one that Lee Harvey Oswald had taken just about a month before. So we think it was the same planned route. But the problem was nobody could ever place him in Dallas. Nobody could ever place him with guns in his hand. And since he was the Key West connection, I noticed some names in the reports, and I said, oh, his wife's family had some connections with the Tampa Mafia. And I started looking at that. I said, okay, nobody was ever able to connect him to that before. And then I thought, you know what? He might still be alive. I'm going to see if I can go find him in Cuba. And a friend of mine, Cheryl Sanchez Simmons, is this great researcher. I asked her to help me figure out how to find him in Cuba. And she found out that he had returned to the United States in 1995. And he had somehow escaped the attention of the authorities and of the media. Nobody had ever talked with him. And he died in 2021, but he had a daughter. And I contacted his daughter, and she agreed to speak with me. And she filled in 50 years, 60 years of missing history. And she was able to put this light on her father. And she was able to place him in Dallas. I tracked down his brother-in-law, and he was able to place guns in his hand. We were able to identify his patterns of violence. And I don't have that hard evidence that he was there and that he shot Kennedy. Other people will say that. I won't say that. But what I've been able to provide, the first photographs of him where you can actually see what his face looks like. I think because he had so many parallels with Oswald, people will be able to study him and the things that he was connected to and prove that there was a conspiracy. Because Oswald's dead, he can't talk. I think we're going to be able to piece it together from this new information. And that wasn't what I set out to do. The book, I wanted to tell this cool story about Key West history. And I wanted people to read it on the beach or by the pool and say, whoa, that's such a cool story about Key West. And then about a month before I was due to have the book out, I uncovered all this new information. And it's like, whoa. And that's the stuff that the people who study the JFK assassination should appreciate. I don't know if they, but
we've got another show listening tonight that's doing a deep dive on it, so they'll probably be in touch with you.
Great.
Just as, to be fair, I think you could put a big red X on top of Kennedy's real assassin, and the Warren Commission still wouldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, have you had any investigations from Men in Black or strange people showing up, or?
It's pretty cool. With everything with Gilberto Lopez, when I was talking with his daughter, she said that they were living in Cuba. He was abusive. He had American citizenship, but he never told his family that he had that because he was hardcore communist. And when his wife found out that he had these papers, she said, "What are we doing here? We're going to America." And it took them a couple of years to get all the paperwork together. But the daughter told me that the night before they were supposed to leave, they were visited by Men in Black. And she said they were men that looked like, they had the suits and everything, just like in the movie. And that they came and warned them that it could be very dangerous for them to return to the United States. And that they might get arrested. And they went anyway, and then they were detained at the airport. So there was some interesting stuff going on. And one of my big questions still is, how were they able to return to the United States? They lived in the heart of the Cuban exile community, and he was a hardcore communist. So how was that allowed to happen? There's somebody else that was pulling strings there.
Yeah, and nobody knows.
Yeah.
Well, CIA will come visit me now. And so you've got,
maybe we'll get the same agent.
Yeah, cool. I'll give him your number.
Stop our show in the middle of the show.
Yeah. Oh, I've had that happen when we talk about aliens. So let's shift a little bit because we've only got you for an hour tonight. And when we were going live, you said that wasn't the real one behind you, that was a stunt double, and you had a story about that. So here to share that, or was that something you didn't want to share?
No, I'm happy to talk about that. So Robert the Doll, I've been working with Robert for about 30 years. And before he was even on display, I'd seen him come alive, and I made it a mission to find out what was making the doll tick. And it's been this fascinating journey. But we have an event in Key West called Fantasy Fest, and it's almost like a Mardi Gras. It's a huge parade, and they invited Robert the Doll and I to be grand marshals. And so the plan was we'd ride down Duval Street in a casket, elevated up on a forklift, and it was a really good time. But Robert the Doll, as an artifact, he's very fragile, and I don't own Robert the Doll. I've uncovered all the information on him, and I've brought his story to the world, but he's an artifact that's owned by the Art and Historical Society. And so no chance that he's going to go out and be in a parade, right? So what we did is I built this replica.
So you're not going to do like they did with the Annabelle doll and just take it on tour?
No. Robert's
that
very
was
happy.
The stupidest thing ever.
Anything could happen, but so what we did, I built this replica of Robert, and I used the same techniques that they used in the Stife factory where he was first made. And I really tried to get inside. And then I took this doll up to the museum, and there's a little girl spirit inside of Robert. There's multiple entities, but this one, she's the daughter of the nanny, Emmeline Abbott. And we don't know her name, but I call her Abby name because of her last name, Abbott. And I held this doll up and I said, "Abby, we're going to be having a parade. And if you don't know what a parade is, I think you're really going to enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of people around. There's big, pretty floats going around and lots of costumes. And if you'd like to join me, all you have to do is come into this doll. It looks just like you, and I'll take care of you, and we'll have a good time on the parade. And then afterwards, you can come back to the museum if you'd like." And when I said that, the doll got heavier. I mean, it got like a pound heavier, noticeably heavier. And we were filming it just for media, We wanted to be like, hey, Robert's spirit's going to be here. And nobody would believe me if I said, hey, the doll just got heavier. So I looked, and there was a guy watching who didn't know anything about Robert. He just happened to be at the museum. And I said, would you like to hold her? And he said, I don't know what this is, but sure. And he held her, and he was overcome with this emotion. And he started crying. And he let go of all this stuff that he had been holding up for most of his life. And he said, I don't understand how this is happening, but it's incredible. And I believe that that is the power of that entity in Robert the doll. And there's a lot of other things that have happened with her since. So I've been able to experiment. And because I always wonder, like, what was it like for Gene Otto as an adult having this doll that's infused with this energy? And I can't say that I'm 100% experiencing what he did, but I like to try to step into people's minds and try to understand what it would have been like. So now I keep Abby with me, and she's great. She's great. And I'll take her to the museum too. I'll say, hey, if you want to hop back into that case, feel free. The way that I see it at the museum, same thing every day, right? People walk up, they say the same thing. They talk like the doll's not there, or they talk to Robert, but take a few pictures maybe and then leave. And I think a child really needs that stimulation. So that's what I try to provide, at least they're around something different happening.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I always heard that with the Robert doll that you had to ask his permission to take pictures.
That's what they say. And that's a man-made legend. It's a great story and people will never stop saying that. I always think it's dangerous to ask permission from an entity because you're giving them more power than you. I always say keep them on an equal level. And the main thing I preach with Robert is respect. People had camera problems back when batteries were, before we had cell phones, when batteries were a good source of energy for spirits. And because so many problems happened, somebody says, oh, look, another dead. And it's like, oh, you better ask his permission then. So it kind of evolved from what humans were thinking.
Wow. Well, in one of the private chats for the show, I was like, I'm not going to talk about him. So another show host is in the chat and he's like, I absolve. I want nothing to do with this. He's typing in all caps.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by stuff like that, though. Like when they took Annabelle out on tour, I was completely baffled to why you would do something like that. And I'm fascinated by the Robert doll and everything that's associated with it. And Glenn knows that.
Yeah. And Robert
That's why he said, don't make the show about the doll.
Robert's very misunderstood. It's not like Robert's looking to curse people. You have to be extremely disrespectful for him to do something. And, you see people online when, if they see a picture of Robert, they're like, I'm sorry, Robert. And I don't believe that Robert can curse people through a screen. It's the people I've seen with the most problems. They're the ones who come in and stick out their tongue at Robert or flip him off or challenge him directly. And if you do that, I've seen people have some really hard times. And what I believe happens, you've got that little girl spirit. And when someone comes in and is respectful, they're not disrespecting the doll, they're disrespecting the little girl. And there's all of these other entities, people, the portal within the doll, which makes sense to me. And so what they'll do is when someone's disrespectful, one of the entities will come out of that portal and they'll latch onto the person and they'll follow them home, their life hell, until they apologize. And that's why there can be multiple people experiencing the curse of Robert at the same time.
Gotcha. How old is the doll?
The doll dates back to 1904.
Wow.
Created by the Steiff company in Germany.
Okay. And so it was probably, I know somewhere I read that it was, he was kept in an attic for a long period of time and put away. And when the family found him, they didn't want anything to do with him.
Yeah, he was locked away because when Gene turned 18, he went off to he went off to Chicago and then to France for a while. And then he got married and they moved to New York. So he was away for some time. He came back in the 1940s when his mom got sick. And that's when he got Robert back out. But Robert did have a couple of decades in a little cedar chest in the attic at the back of the house. But when Gene returned, that's when he made a little playroom in the attic. When I first visited the Otto home in 1996, the attic was still set up for Robert. Robert wasn't there anymore, but it still had the little chairs and the little tables and everything set up.
So how many spirits are actually supposed to be in Robert, or do they not know exactly?
It's an unlimited number. So at first I always looked at Robert as one entity, and I couldn't figure out why things were going wrong when I figured out that there was an innocent child in there. And then I'm like, multiples. And some of them thrive on that negative energy. So there are two that people see regularly, and they're like 8-foot tall creatures, very dark, very large, and they'll kind of gravitate around Robert's case. And I'd say they're the main protectors. And then beyond them, and this is where Cindy Kaza was down for something they did on the Discovery Channel. And she's like, yeah, there's a portal in him. And I'm like, now that makes perfect sense. So it's an unlimited number of spirits. I think there's the primary ones that are always there, but I believe spirits are always looking for energy. And so they're probably just waiting. You hear about when people have a seance and there's like a waiting room of all these spirits hoping that they'll get called in, that they'll be the one that gets to talk because they want this energy. And with Robert, I think there's that. And there's so many of them. So,
how do you get a portal in a doll?
Well, I don't know.
No, that was just the thought that crossed my mind.
I've got theories about it, and what I've been investigating lately, somebody mentioned that there's an elemental spirit with Robert, and with the story that they told, it was very similar to something that I had happen. I'm like, and I looked up elementals. I was familiar with them, but not, only by mention. And an elemental spirit is connected to any of the Earth's elements, earth, wind, water, fire. But when I looked up these elementals, they were first written about by Paracelsus, and he wrote about them in the Black Forest of Germany. And that's where all of Grimm's fairy tales took place. It's a very, very sacred, very magical forest. And when I looked at that, I'm like, whoa, 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 because this person had told me that Robert was an earth elemental, and earth elementals would be made from trees and earth. Well, Robert is stuffed with something called excelsior, which is a tightly spun wood wool. And so I looked up the Stife Company and where they might have sourced their wood wool from in 1904, and it would have been the Black Forest.
Wow.
So I believe what we're dealing with here is an elemental from the Black Forest of Germany. And you look back, I mean, it's almost like that information's been hiding in plain sight, because the articles, there's only a few articles written about him before I brought his story, but they exist. And he was always referred to as the enchanted doll.
Okay.
So, you've got the enchanted forest, and I think there's a lot to that, and we as a society have made him this evil doll. But I'd say he contains darkness and light, but that's not to say one is good and one is bad. One can't exist without the other. And I think when people visit Robert, it almost is like if you allow him to, he will take you into the forest and he'll take you on a journey, and you might not enjoy it. But when you come out the other side, you're going to be a changed person.
Wow.
And I think there's a lot of that going on.
Did you ever have an experience like that?
I've had a few. It's really interesting. And we could do an entire show about this because what I discovered, Robert's been part of my journey since kindergarten. And there was a symbol that my teacher saw when she started telling us about ghost stories. And I didn't know that until just last year. I called her and I said, listen, there's a lot of Pennsylvania German connections with my relationship with Robert, and you're the first one. Why did you start telling us about ghosts? And she shared what she had seen. But one of the wild things, I'd been in Key West for almost 20 years when they asked me to start doing tours of the fort with Robert. And it's an old Civil War fort. So I started digging in to the Civil War history. And my dad said, oh, you know that the Fidel Sloan, your great-great-great-grandfather, was in the Civil War. So I looked him up, and he was in the Pennsylvania 47th Volunteers. And I thought, oh, that sounds familiar. Well, it turns out his Civil War regiment was in charge of Key West for most of the Civil War. And they built the fort where Robert the Doll lives. So it's this incredible journey, and there's too many synchronicities like that for to be a mistake. So it's definitely a path that I've been led on. And I don't fully understand it, but it's been quite a ride.
Well, it sounds as though, I think you mentioned this earlier, Key West was almost your destiny.
Yeah. And I feel like it was, the different people who led me here. And it's so funny because everybody who did lead me here, everybody who made it possible for me to figure out Robert the Doll's story, every single one of them, Pennsylvania German connections. And Gene Otto's grandfather came over from Germany. He emigrated to Pennsylvania. And then from Pennsylvania, he went to Florida. He joined the military and went to Florida. So,
wow. Even back then, they didn't like the cold.
No.
Also wanted to talk about with Bum, but also about the fire department stuff. It's haunted as well, is it not?
Yeah. Key West has, we call it America's most haunted firehouse. And the reason we started calling it that, we had people who would come in to investigate, and they'd say, oh my God, this is the most haunted place. And we say, do you think it's the most haunted firehouse in America? They said, I think it's the most haunted place I've ever been in. And I spent a lot of time with Robert at Fort East Martello. When I go into the firehouse, it's a different energy, but we have so much more activity there. You can feel people watching you. And I mean, there are dozens of spirits in this place, and it's a different type of energy than you get at Fort East Martello. Because, as you know, being a firefighter, firefighters are protectors. Mm-hmm. Now, they also have these great dark, sick sense of humor.
Yes.
And I think that adds to the activity. And I think that might be why we have so much happen. But the place, so it's this great old station built in 1907. There was a mysterious fire in the engine room before anybody moved in. And that started the legend that, the land is cursed. And we think, the whole island was native bones, so it could have been built on a burial ground. It's over this huge freshwater aquifer, which is rare in Key West. So it could be charged because of that. That might have made it sacred. But 1909, this hurricane came through, ripped the roof off, tore down one of the walls. During that storm, there were three babies born in Key West. All boys. Each of them went on to be chief or assistant chief and lead that fire department. So we think that the curse was broken. They were like the protectors who came in, because then it was this incredible station, the pride of the island, from 1909 all the way up to 1998 when Hurricane George came in. And it was falling apart by then, and the news station was ready. And they said, pick everything up and move. And Captain Alex Vega came in and he saved the building. And I think the spirits definitely appreciate it. And we've got, it's not just firefighters. We've got a little boy who was burned in a local fire. We think he didn't understand death, and he liked firefighters and he liked fire trucks. So he probably followed them back to the station and stayed there. We've got Tennessee Williams gardener Frank Fontes, who was murdered. A lot of the artifacts were once in his. There's a ghost of a horse, and there's just some really interesting stuff. And we split this up where people can get about a 45-minute audio tour. And the way I narrate the audio tours so that people can be alone. They don't have to be with a group. They get the headphones, and I tell them, keep it off of one ear. It's almost like they're walking through a horror movie, hearing these stories with just a flashlight throughout the entire fire station. And we've got 2 floors. And then when they finish, I say, okay, where did you get hits on your equipment? What did you like here? And we'll give them spirit boxes and dowsing pendulums and Ouija boards and all the different equipment. We'll show them how to use it, and they get to conduct their own investigation and try to find out what happened to the spirits.
That'd be amazing.
It's
I would so love to do that.
I think it's going to be the next thing in ghost tours, because there's the talking tours and then some equipment built in. I think you're going to see a lot of places start to do this because it's really the best of both worlds, and it's unlike anybody's doing.
Any of my friends watching? That's what I want for my birthday, right there.
Yeah.
That ghost tour.
The history of so many things too. So, like I was doing a little homework on it, and I didn't realize Key West had 2 huge fires. One of them, which they started blasting buildings to get a fire line.
Yeah.
This is fascinating. I never realized, and I don't know, do they still, or do you know, they were one of the original fire hydrants that was all salt water.
Yeah. And I don't know if they use salt water. I'm going to have to check on that. Captain Alex knows all of that stuff. I know they've got some wells that they will pitch in, and with certain tankers, they're set up to where they've got the pumps. So if there's not a fire hydrant nearby, they can drop into the ocean and pull it out of there. But back in the day, yeah, you had to do a lot of that. We had bucket brigades at one point, where people would fill up from the nearest cistern or fill up from the ocean or the Gulf, and they just pass it all down. And we used to have roofs, and once the fire started spreading, they were really bad. Like you said, the one guy, he blew up his own house. Well, there's different stories. Some people say he blew up his own house to stop the fire from spreading. Other stories say he blew up the neighbor's house to stop it from spreading to his.
He must have been a fireman.
But yeah, fires have really shaped the island, because we used to be the cigar capital of the world. We were manufacturing so many cigars with that Cuban tobacco, and it was incredible. They shipped the tobacco over, and all the rollers would do it here. But the fire of 1886 took down most of the business district and so many of the cigar factories. And so a lot of them moved to Tampa. That's how like Ybor City started, and they gave tax breaks there. And it was devastating to Key West's economy. And that led to Key West having one of the best fire departments in America. People will cite, Key West has the best, New York has the best. And they were truly innovators, because on a small island, you didn't have a choice to call in help.
Yeah, you're on your own.
Yeah.
We've got about 10 minutes-ish left. And I was going to, first, have you ever seen a Bigfoot by any chance?
I've not seen one myself, but my friend Brad Bertelli, he writes about the skunk ape in the Florida Keys. And, the skunk ape is our version of a Bigfoot. I saw something once when I was in college. I was in South Miami, and we used to go drive into the Everglades and go fishing and go in there drinking. Me and a friend drove in one night, and we found this little trail, this little side road, and it had so many holes in it that he was sitting on the hood, and I'm driving really slow, and he's telling me how to avoid the different holes. And then we saw some little tracks, and we were probably on that road for about 45 minutes.
Oh, gosh.
And then we came to a little clearing, and there was a little cabin with a light on. And we're like, oh, we better turn around. And then we saw something coming out of the trees nearby there. And he saw it. He said, go, 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 go.
Punch it.
And I drove back down that road. He was flying up and down. The car was bottoming out. I did a lot of damage to that car. And then I asked him, I said, what'd you see? He goes, I don't know, but it was not a human. So that's the
Wow.
closest I've come to seeing something. And he was terrified.
Yeah. Well, there's no cryptids on Key West, is there?
Not in Key West. The sighting that happened in the 1970s, there was a sighting in Key Largo. So, and the Everglades cut right over close to Key Largo. So it's probably the same skunk ape that they're getting in the Everglades. But I've talked to people who've seen them down through the Florida Keys, probably up to the 7 Mile Bridge. 7 Mile Bridge is pretty long to cross. We don't get squirrels south of the 7 Mile Bridge.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, like they'll go across the smaller bridges in the Keys, but we don't get any squirrels down this far. And I think it's the same thing with the skunk ape.
Yeah, they can't just put their thumb out.
Yeah,
so.
We get a lot of UFOs though.
I was going to ask about that. We're going to run out of time, but what is your best paranormal story that you like to tell? Or have you already told it? You've got so many.
God, there are so many. Well, I'll tell you all right, so we started seeing UFOs out at the fort, when we're doing the tour with Robert. Really good view of the stars. All of the guides up there have seen UFOs. And I had seen UFOs in Sedona. We went on the UFO tour and they had these night vision scopes. And I had wanted to do a tour with that. But they were very expensive. And I got a call, and the number on the caller ID was Popeye's Chicken. And this guy is telling me, he goes, there really is an underwater base off of the Florida Keys, which people have talked about. I've heard rumors of that for 30 years. I thought it was a little crazy. And he said, here's the things you need to look into. And he gave me like a list of bullet points. And I asked my tour guides, I'm like, hey, was that one of you messing with me? And they said, no. And then I got a call back and he said, if you don't believe me, go out on New Year's Eve and look at the ocean. And I was getting ready to do the tour, and it was New Year's Eve, and I walk out and I'm looking at the ocean, and this thing shot up out of the water and it moved around the sky doing a show like you would not believe. And when I looked at that, I'm like, whoa, no way. And then I started digging deep into this UFO stuff, and the stuff that I uncovered, like he said to look up the NR1. There's a sinkhole called the NR1, but it blows scientists' minds because a sinkhole needs air to form, and this has never been exposed to air. So maybe that's where one of the underwater portals is. In the UFO conspiracies, they talk about Majestic 12. Every president involved in that spent time right down here in Key West. The Key West Agreement, if anybody's into UFOs, look up the Key West Agreement. It gave the Navy power over the air.
Charles, if you're still watching, pay attention.
Chris's comment, he says, the guy at my Popeyes doesn't tell me anything.
They just mess up your order here. So
I called the Popeyes number back to talk to this guy again. It rang through to a real Popeyes. So I think the number must have been spoofed. It was a Popeyes in Minnesota. But there's a really fascinating history, and it goes back, apparently it goes back to 1918 when Thomas Edison came to Key West, and he was working on a series of top secret inventions for the military that pretty much could shoot down UFOs that were below the water and above the surface. And that's the same year that, that the Navy base here was formed. And there's a lot of activity between Key West and Guantanamo, and then a place called Altec in the Bahamas. And it kind of makes up this triangle of activity. And so that's what I've been looking into. And I find it very fascinating.
I'm going to have to get you on my show just to talk about UFOs and aliens and stuff.
Yeah, it's there's so much incredible stuff, and we go out. We do the UFO tour. We just started it a few weeks ago. I'd say probably 8 out of 10 times with this scope, we're seeing things that we can't explain.
My co-host would absolutely love him being on the show for that. Yeah, I have a new one too. That would
That's-
absolutely love it.
That is cool. I never realized that history about Edison. I didn't even know that. So we're
Yeah,
learning.
and when the first, you got the ancient alien stuff, but then modern aliens over on the West Coast, people started seeing them. They didn't have a word for them, so they called them mystery airships. And they figured men from Mars. And everybody says, it's got to be Thomas Edison. He's the smartest man. He's got to be behind it. And Thomas Edison said, the technology doesn't exist. And then one of these airships dropped an encrypted tube and said, please deliver this to Thomas Edison. And everybody's like, yeah, we knew it was him. And that's when they started the big scare about little green men. And they said, oh, you're crazy. And they locked people up in insane asylums who were talking about seeing the UFOs. And, that's when they really started that campaign. And it was shortly after that Thomas Edison went down to Key West and started working on this top secret information. Some of his letters with the different players is kind of like, it's like, okay, they're covering something up. And then when it started happening with Roswell, I think that could have been a distraction to stop people from looking at everything happening over here in the Atlantic Ocean. I mean, what better way than to make everybody start focusing on the other side?
Yeah, our government's good at that.
Yeah, they are.
And even in Key West, even had a prominent role. I heard in the Venezuela attack, or whatever it was called.
Tell me that again.
The Venezuela, I'm probably saying it wrong. Venezuela mission we had recently. Key West somehow played into it. I'm not sure how.
Yeah. Key West has so much going on. I mean, the military flights from all over, the pilots come here to train because there's this great open ocean for them to train over. So on Boca Chica, we have this incredible base. And I think there's probably more going on there than they'll admit to. But we also have the Joint Interagency Task Force that right down by the beach at Fort Taylor, where everybody goes to. We've got a high concentration where, they'll look for all the drug dealers, pretty much everything coming in towards America from the South. Anything that's going into the Gulf. Back during the Civil War, Key West was a perfect fortification. They built the Dry Tortugas, or Fort Jefferson, because you had the control over everything, and that's how they stopped the Confederates from moving stuff down the Mississippi River into the Gulf and trading with anybody over in Europe.
Wow. David, you are the most interesting man in America. I want you to tell everybody, especially the notes will reflect this, how they can get in touch with you, how to get a tour, how to buy your books, and anything else you want to talk about.
On social media at David L. Sloan for most things, and then let's see here for tours, ghostkeywest.com. But if you come to Key West and you want all this haunted stuff, I have a great free haunted directory, which is hauntedkeywest.com. And then for books in Australia, I think you can get them right off of Amazon if you have Amazon over. I think there's Australian Amazon. And if not, then come to Key West. I know you have a lot of people listening in America too. So phantompress.com, Phantom, like Phantom of the Opera. People can order autographed copies. I sign them myself. I ship them myself. I can write personalized notes in there. And that's the best way if you want to support me directly. Just go to phantompress.com and I'd be happy to sign a book for you.
Well,
and all this will be in the notes of the show, so you guys could get your own copies.
Yeah, probably tomorrow.
I definitely will be ordering one.
So, David, will you come back and visit with us again?
I would love to. I
might even have to get him on the asylum.
Okay, I'll come over and help co-host. So
I'll
bum in. So, David, have a great night and enjoy the 40-degree weather down in Key West while we're suffering up here with the teens.
You know what? I don't want to hear anything. We're negative here.
Woo.
Not yet here. By the weekend. So, have a good night, David. Thank you so much for coming on.
All right, y'all stay warm. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been a really great night.
It has been, and I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. Cheers.
All right. Bye-bye.
And Wendell, stop talking about chicken. You're making me hungry.
That was incredible. As you know, we have two guests, as always. Let me push a button here. Maybe push a button. There we go.
Broadcasting across Australia on Dare Media Group radio stations, this is the Sportcat Show, uncovering secret chapters, strange encounters,
and the occasional technical mishap.
Did you notice I changed my name today?
Yes, I did. I figured that was because of me. So, everybody, welcome back to Hour 2 of the Sportcat Show, formerly known as the Paranormal guys. And man, we got a lot of paranormal encrypted in that first hour with David Sloan. But our second guest tonight, we always have two, Seth Voorhees. I believe he's been here with us before.
I think he has.
Yeah, he's got a novel out about immune.
I remember his name because of Jason Voorhees. So yeah, he's been here before.
Yeah, I was
here recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was quite fun. So I was like, all right, I'll come back and do it again. I'd love to. I'd love to be on here as much as possible. And I was enjoying your last guest. Yeah. No, it wasn't torture.
That he was amazing.
Yeah, I was enjoying that. I was just sitting there listening.
Yeah, Dave I guess you heard me say he's the most interesting man in America, and I got to believe that. So go by the man.
I wonder if that doll behind him had the little girl in it, because he said he brought the little girl in the doll.
Yeah, it is. And by the way, thank you for little girl for allowing us to view you on the screen, and I mean you no harm. So
yes, we respect you. Please do not curse us.
Bobby Doll, BobbyDizzle.com.
Tell me you're coming awake and coming over, right?
Sorry, Seth. Well, there's a lot of stories. I don't know if you know anything about the doll, but if you disrespect the doll, your motorcycle explodes, an asteroid hits your house, and so
you get cursed. Some horrible thing happens to you.
So yeah, you grow a fourth eye or something. So.
I want a fourth eye. That might actually sound fun.
Get it back here so I can see what's coming.
Right.
So, Seth, how the heck have you been? Been up to anything good recently since we last spoke?
Things are going good. I can't complain. Just working on more projects. I'm in the middle of my fifth one, hopefully coming. I'm hoping the end of the year here, I'll be able to get more information on it, but that's definitely got me excited and ready to go. I mean, I love having a new project, and it always gets exciting when it's about ready to be done, and it just brings you joy. So yeah. But yeah, things are good.
How long does it take you to when you start the project from start to end, roughly?
It depends on how big the project is. So normally, it might take 8 months to a year. It just depends on how many revisions I do. Normally, I do my own. Well, I always do at least 3 revisions on my own before I give them to my editor. And I usually try to take a few weeks to a month off in between each revision just to get my, eyes a little rest and my brain a chance to see it in a new light. And then my editor, of course, does a great job. So that, I would say 8 months to a year, give or take. But I'm always working on other projects in between when I'm taking that month off of rest from revision and stuff. So I'm always got something going.
Now, this is your newest, Immune, Rise of the Inflicted, correct?
So this is the second edition of it. Yep. Yes, it is. It came out originally in 2019. That was the original date, in December of 2019, which was not the best timing for a pandemic narrative about zombies that come, after you've been infected with a pandemic virus. But
did you take notes from Matt Groening by any chance?
No, yeah. No, but actually what a freaky experience one time was, so in February of 20, so after I just, been released for about 2 months, I was at the gym, and, they have the banks of TVs you can watch when you're there. And there was I think it was CNN, and they were reporting how they're looking into if COVID, if people with a certain blood type were more susceptible to it or not. And in my book, those who get infected are all blood types but A positive. A positive are the immune people. So I was sitting there going, well, that's kind of creepy. I hope the rest of the book doesn't come true, because the rest of the book, I don't want that part. I don't want those.
Yeah, no kidding. So were you inspired anybody by oh god, totally Kirkman, Robert Kirkman, with The Walking Dead? Is that?
Yeah, that was a little bit of inspiration. Yeah, because when I started writing it, that's when Walking Dead and Fear of the Walking Dead was just at their glory and height. So watching a few episodes, yes, I was thinking, well, I'd like to write a zombie narrative, but have it not be like all the other zombie narratives that were out at the time, because there were so many. Everything was
There
just
still
zombie.
is so many,
There
though.
is,
And
yeah.
they just remake them over and over and over. And
Yeah. Now, the good thing about Immune, though, is the zombie part's only about maybe 10% of the book. The rest is all of the societal conflicts before, and then when the pandemic strikes, and then after, when they come out of the phase and try to take over the world and recreate it in their own image. So you don't have to get too far with the zombies. It's actually funny because I was on a podcast not too long ago, and we got into a conversation about what's the fascination with it, though? Because really, when you think about it, why would you want to have an event occur where you could possibly die being eaten and torn and ripped alive? Like, that sounds like very horrible
you
death.
know, I do like Michonne did on Walking Dead, and I'd make them my pets.
There you go. I often kind of wonder if sometimes people love it, not so much for the zombies, but just the desire to have an existence where you don't have to pay bills. You don't have to have adult responsibilities. You don't have to worry about telemarketers. I mean, there'll still be struggles, but you get a break from, the stresses of the world today. And I wonder if some people just want that freedom. They don't want the zombies. They just want that freedom. And they're like, well, how are we going to get it? Well, probably by zombies. So let's just come up with that.
Everyone go and live in the Amish country.
Right.
There we go.
There you go.
That's how you fix it. Go
There you
live
go.
in the
Just
Amish
go off the
country.
grid and
Well, don't with
Well,
yours.
they're not really completely off the grid, though, because I've seen a lot of TikTok videos here lately.
Yeah.
Of people in the Amish and Mennonites with cell phones doing TikTok videos, and I'm like, I thought Amish couldn't have cell phones,
you think.
but Mennonites can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mennonites are like Amish.
I was gonna say, is that like
we have Mennonites up here in South Dakota.
Well, here in Ohio, we have a whole town, a whole area of just Amish.
Okay.
And it's Amish community.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Mennonites there too. They're the ones that drives the car, that has a cell phone, that gets to live everything like us, except they don't have electricity.
Yeah.
And they have to live like Amish, except they get some convenience of what we have.
Yeah. It actually might be Hutter rights.
I couldn't give up my Mountain Dew. It couldn't happen. So
right. No, I need my Arnold Palmer and chocolate too much. I can't give up
energy drinks. Yeah. Couldn't do it.
One of the things in your book I like is the zombies, when they are, I'll use the word cured, but when they come back, they remember everything they did.
Yes, they did.
That's an unusual twist on it.
Yep, they remember everything, and they just decide to basically take revenge against those who are part of the immune group. And they take over and rebuild the country in their own image. And like I said, and then they take over and they basically herd them all up and send them to Australia. Actually, Australia becomes the whole world gets separated into 11 or 12 districts, and Australia is the one.
Sounds like some Hunger Games mixed in with Walking Dead.
Yeah, it's more like House of Cards and Walking Dead is what I think. Yeah, not as good as well. That was great. That was a great show, but.
I agree, Brenda. Wendell needs to quit rubbing it in that he didn't get no ice or snow.
See, we're waiting on snow. We just have the cold.
You know what? Here in Ohio, you guys can have all that snow because we've got it all here.
Yeah, we're getting to this weird thing. I'm sure it's global warming where it snows in March and April. It is really cold now, like December through February, and then all of a sudden March and April, when you're tired of being trapped inside, that's when it decides to snow. It's really
right now we have like -12.
Ooh, yeah, we had that last week. It was like -50.
We've got piles of snow almost 5 feet tall.
Yeah,
from taller than you.
Yeah,
Have you
I'm
seen
4'11",
TikTok of,
so they're
oh
taller than
geez,
me.
of Russia and that huge snowstorm they had and all the people in there digging out of their apartments? Oh my, I was like, no, I can't do that.
Yeah, that was. My son lives in Vermont, and he sent me pictures of his woodshed collapsed. They had 2 foot.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I never would have thought about that. And of course,
Yeah.
I had to explain it to him. But yeah, the weight. And we're gonna get another one. Now you're in Dakotas, right? You're in
South Dakota.
That's right. Okay, so we're getting another cold front coming down. So
You guys could have all that. We're done with it here in Ohio. Completely done with it.
I don't want it. No.
Like my
Don't
kids
wanna
have been
leave.
out of school almost a week because of the cold and the snow.
Yeah.
They need to go back to school.
Yep. Just send them back. We barely got snow days when I was a kid. It had to snow like 5 feet, and the wind had to be blowing, and it had to be like a -20 wind chill before they go, oh, maybe we should cancel it.
Here in Ohio, they close it for when it gets too hot.
Oh, jeez, really? We will
Like I
sometimes.
moved
guess
from
we should say that.
Oklahoma where it would get like the heat index of 100 and high.
Yeah,
And
they
our
do.
first year here, they closed it because it was too hot, and I'm like, that's not hot. What are
Yeah.
you?
See, now they start school before. I don't know if where in Ohio, but it used to be they didn't start school till after Labor Day. Now it's always before Labor Day, and that first week or so, they always have school get canceled because it's so hot and there's no air conditioning. And it's like, well, if you know it's going to be canceled, why don't you just quit
My
starting
kids
it?
start back
Labor
in
Day.
the middle of August.
Yeah.
I have no idea here in Atlanta. So all my kids are grown. So
There you go.
well, with your book, and you've got a degree in sociology.
Yes.
How did you tie it all together about putting it back together? And oh yeah, by the way, Australia, we're live there, right? We're live in Australia. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good.
You just kind of forget to
I had
drop that in.
I had to plug it in just to make sure they got excited. Like, all right, so we're about Australia. Let's look it up. I hopefully did a good job. I had to do research about vegetation and make sure I tried not to sound too ignorant. I've never been to Australia. I mean, I've heard. I knew a coworker that did some years of college there, so she told me a lot about it.
See, Sherry agrees with me. She's in Michigan. She's done with the cold. She's done with the snow, just like me.
Yeah.
Well, talking about Australia, I was talking to the station manager, and he's like, it's 112, 121 here today, and I'm like, what?
Yeah,
it's like hot there. Wow, that sounds like some Middle East stuff.
I'm torn to visit because I want to go and see a lot of things, but I really don't like spiders, and I know their spiders get a little big, and so I'm like, I don't know.
The snakes that come out of the toilet, the kangaroos that knock on your door. Yeah, so I want to be on an upper floor so that.
Right. Australians are very brave. You have my respect. You have all my love and respect.
Yes, they are. Everything there is trying to kill you. So. At least from the American point of view.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, in one of your novels, you feature a Eugene. Was that from The Walking Dead, or was that just coincidence?
Eugene. No, Eugene is from my current book that I'm working on, actually. Okay. So the one that I just mentioned is getting through the editorial process right now. I did not get that name from The Walking Dead. I don't know how I got that name. I'm not very creative, so I'm not going to lie to you when it comes to names. I mean, I'm creative with my books, but when it comes to names, I just Google unique boys' names, unique girls' names, unique last names, and I just pick what I think sounds interesting. And I saw the name Eugene, and I'm like, you don't hear that a lot in books.
No, you don't. So
just like no, the main character in Immune is Wyatt, and I did get him from Wyatt Earp because that was always a historical figure I've read a lot about and done research over, and I've always just found his life very fascinating. Just the stuff he's gone through, what he did, and his bending of the rules to suit himself. Let's be honest.
So you're a history buff as well, or?
Depending on the subject. I mean, the Old West, I do. Little military, World War II, I really enjoy. When I read nonfiction, it's a lot of nautical stuff as well. A lot of like tales of shipwreck, Arctic adventures, like from the turn of the century or the late 1800s. I love those things, like The Wager. I don't know if you ever read that. A lot of great stories of shipwreck, survival, those kind of tales. I really enjoy. I do. When I'm not reading fiction.
I didn't realize Key West had such a history.
Yeah, they do have quite a history.
Yeah.
Well, it reminded me when he was talking of, I used to watch, I saw this documentary, and for the life of me, I can't remember the name of it or anything, but they interviewed a general who was kind of in that Area 51. And he was very honest when he said, they were struggling really for a while to figure out a cover-up story. And then he said, the American public just kind of created this whole, well, it must be aliens. That's why they're not keeping anything. He said, we just went with it. He said, he was honest. He said, the American people come up with half of our cover stories and we just roll with it. He says, we don't even have to try. And I'm like, well, at least you're honest about it.
That makes sense. Hear that, Brenda? Some of the ideas you come up with are probably going to be real. So it's my daytime co-host.
And they're talking about camping and stuff like that right now.
Yeah.
And the weather and
windows going out and camping. And so, I let him go over there. They can come back to us.
And Brenda's talking about having chicken for dinner.
I had a pork chop. That's why I was almost late. I don't want you to think we're not trying to talk about your book.
We're fine.
Okay, because
he should know how we are. We're ADHD. We go off every topic.
Yeah, exactly. We do. We get shiny. See a UFO.
That's why my shirt says ADHD highway to look, a squirrel.
Well, and I'm enjoying the Scream mask. And then is that Stu behind you?
Yes, it is.
Stu? Okay,
and then,
Stu from Scream. That's what I was thinking.
But above him, I've got Skeet right there.
Okay. All right.
My friend, Scott Straka drew these.
They're really nice. I was just admiring those. I'm like, oh, yeah. I had a coworker. She loves horror as well. And she came up to me one day and she's like, can I hang this in my office? And it was a Pennywise portrait. And I'm like, I don't care, but I'd go ask the supervisor. I don't care, though. I'm like, as long as you don't meet clients, it's fine.
I'm a big horror fanatic. I like the new Scream movie comes out at the end of the month, and I'm ecstatic for it because they're bringing Matthew Lillard back.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I do, too. That's why I write that stuff, horror and dark fiction. There's just something about it.
Well, there's the whole fan theory behind it, and somehow there are what we came up with is tying into what's really happening into this new one.
All right.
See, we knew it. We told you that's what it was.
Right. They just finally decided to go with it. Be like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, you're a pretty big fan of horror stuff, aren't you?
I do. Horror, all that. I probably force my partner to watch more scary movies than she would like to, but it's a fair balance because I have to watch her Vampire Diaries and Twilight.
See, that's me too.
Those
I'm both
kind of
them.
Stuff where I don't love, and so I'm like, it's a fair even trade. It's gotta.
There's a new movie that's kind of action packed coming out where this woman and her boss are on a plane, and the plane crashes, and it reminds me of that Stephen King movie where she ties him to the bed and breaks his legs.
Misery, yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of that.
Yes, I want to see that. I've seen previews.
She tells him, she's like, no one's coming. You only have me.
Right.
And I'm
we're not in the office anymore. I was like, yes. Oh, yeah. And, so much horror has inspired me and my writing as well, just like everyone else. And I love Misery. That was a good book, too. Good book and a good movie. Both were good. I actually think that's one of
Stephen King is a good one, as long as it's the book. Because when they put it into film, it's not as good.
Not
the
generally.
Books are always better for everything.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Though I do get a little controversial because I'll tell people I don't put it up there as high as his best, and that frustrates people.
It's not his best.
It's not really his best.
Not.
I think The Outsider is one of his best. Misery, definitely, for sure, was one of the best. And he has one called Dragon Eye that a lot of people don't talk about. That one was really good as well. They got to be, with the horror, when you're a horror author, though, too, you also got to take the the fan base of Stephen King with a grain of salt as well, because there's a great big fan base that believes like Stephen King was just the creator and origin of the horror genre, and like all the tropes that he made popular, he created and invented, and you can't ever write about those tropes, and you can't. It's just like, okay, chill down, people. Like Stephen King's not the first person to write about a haunted hotel. He just was the first one to really make it popular. You know, he's not the first one to write about alien invasion with Tommy knockers and people taking over people's bodies. He wasn't, so it's like, calm down. I always have to tell him there's a difference between writing a popular trope and ripping someone off. So, yeah, because I got that when I wrote about Immune, and people said it was about, when I told them it was about pandemic, they're like, oh, well, did you get inspiration from The Stand? You must have read The Stand. I'm like, no, I never read The Stand. So no, it wasn't. Actually, if anything, I Am Legend by it's Richard Mathis, I believe, where it was the pandemic of vampires. That was really good inspiration. That book was just awesome.
Brenda, I think we both are. So there we go.
Okay. I don't know
Well,
what they're
Brenda
talking
said,
about.
Wendell, I'm okay. I'm Glenn's bitch. LOL.
Yeah, well, it's true.
So I said, I think we both are.
It's true. Yeah, I haven't read the book Misery. I should do
That's
that.
good.
Yeah.
The
That's
book
one
is-
of the most terrifying scenes to me. So.
Oh, and in the book, that's not even. I don't think that happens in the book. I don't remember. I don't think she breaks his legs. I remember she runs over a police officer with a lawnmower. That part always sticks in my head.
But Glenn, you don't want to be tied up and some woman go psycho and break your legs with the sledgehammer.
I'm pretty sure that's not on my bucket list. I'm pretty sure.
But why not? Me and Brenda, that's our plan. You just didn't know it. I just
Moving
kind of
to Key
spoiled
West.
it.
There you go.
But we know where to find you.
Yeah.
Brenda, you hear that? That's our plan right there.
Not hard to find in Key West. So find me at a bar.
Yeah.
So what are some of your other inspirations for your stuff? What else makes you really think, I could do something like that?
Oh, geez. Inspiration comes from anything, really. And just going on, whatever's going on in the day. It could be a news article. It could be a movie. It could be a scene. It could be a book. I was trying to think. So with Immune, yeah, like I said, a little bit of Walking Dead. Then the swine flu, the real swine flu was actually a lot of the pandemic inspiration. And then let's see, I was trying to think with the Interim, it was based on, originally I wanted to do something like the 12 Days of Christmas. But I was like, but everyone does that. So how could I do a horror version? And I love Halloween. So I was just in there, well, what if you do 12 Days of Halloween? And then I was like, well, that's probably already been kind of done. And then so usually with me, once I have inspiration, I write a scene, and then that scene, hopefully, if it's good enough and inspires me enough, then when I'm done writing for the day and I go, to my job or I go to the gym, the next scene will come in my head, and then I'll write that the next day. And just slowly they'll build off of each other. And if it's something great, then I keep going with it. And if there's nothing, then I throw it away. And eventually the inspiration just keeps adapting and changing with me. But yeah, that's how Interim eventually. And then I think also too, I remember because I read, Something Wicked This Way May Come, about the carnival coming into town, and that inspired a little bit in the Interim as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you have to do a little medical research for this book?
For Immune, not so much. I did try to look up kind of the phases of diseases and illness, and just to go through that. A little bit with blood type, like I said, because those who are A positive are immune. So I wanted to kind of look it up and tried to get a little bit of medical accuracy in there. But I didn't go too overboard, because I'm like, it's also a fictional story, and I don't want to get too in depth either. Because I was thinking, I can't really explain zombies coming out of the phase too medically. It's like they need to just come out of it.
They just come from the CDC. We know where they open the door, said, "Go, be free." So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I do a sequel, I'll try and maybe be a little more medically inclined to be more accurate.
Immune's got a lot of good reviews on Amazon too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd love for it to be picked up. Should be a miniseries, right?
I was going to ask you. You were talking about your fan and the fan base. Do you get a lot of negative stuff, or?
Not a whole lot.
He's 4.8 out of 5 stars on
I would
Amazon. That's
say,
amazing.
most of my criticism, I mean, we all get negative criticism, but never anything too terrible. Something like, I didn't, I liked it, but I didn't enjoy it. Or the only issue I ever had, which wasn't entirely my fault. So when the interim first came out, I've done 2 editions now, but when the first edition came out, it was self-published, and I could only afford so much editing, so I knew there was going to be some editing mistakes. And there was a review that had mentioned that, saying like you could tell the editor must have missed something, and I was like, well, they didn't miss anything. I just going to pay him to keep going. So they didn't really miss anything. But then once I got the rights back to it, I was able to review it and go through it again and make a few more changes and adjustments. So I haven't received too many negative reviews, but I'm sure, like any person, you get them. So, but I was always told, don't worry about the negative ones, because as long as you have reviews, that's what spikes up the interest on Amazon and other sites. So,
yep, people are reading it.
Yep.
So your first one, since they were the first edition, that'll be a collector's item, and that'll be on eBay for
Maybe.
like $500. So
there you go. Someday, yeah. Get a signed copy with a different cover and see if it'll be worth millions.
There you go. Now, in your new book, what is your new book? Hold on, I thought I had it here. Well, go ahead. Tell me about your new book.
So the new, like the one that'll be released later in the year. Is that?
Yeah.
So that's called the Cottonwood Prestige, and it's very much horror. Maybe a little thriller and mystery added in there, but for the most part, it's horror. So the main character in that one is named Eugene, and he gets called back to go home of his town, West Carlton, Michigan, which I made up. So if there's a real West Carlton, I apologize. And just so you know, it has nothing to do with you. Don't take it personal. But he has to go back to help his father, who's going ill and has health issues, and with his grandfather, who lives with his father. So it's 3 of the generations all in the same house, and he's not looking forward to it. And so you eventually figure out that they're all members of a very popular organization called the Albatross, which is a student organization, and all the alumni who've obviously graduated from it pretty much run the town and the county and the areas around the county. And eventually a lot of the members start slowly dying. Well, not slowly. They get murdered and killed in very mysterious ways. And Eugene just gets caught up in the mystery. And there's other characters involved. I have a detective named Daryl. He starts investigating as well, and he's a member of the Albatross, and a lot of conflict there. But yeah, so that's the main little short summary. I don't want to give up too much.
No,
it's definitely horror. There's some scenes in there after I was done editing going, that's okay. What was I thinking when I wrote that? I'm not sure. Sometimes you got to worry about yourself too. You got to be like, what inspired that nonsense?
What is going on in my head that I need to worry about?
Right. There's one particular scene I don't think the editor's gone to it yet, but I'm waiting. I'm like, what is she going to say when she gets to this part?
She's going to ask, are you okay?
Right. Yeah. Are you okay?
Do we need to talk here?
Right. Well, for me, because I worked in residential for so long, and I've mentioned this to people, I had a lot of burnout and a little secondary trauma, and writing for me has really been therapeutic in that sense, where I can get rid of all that stuff. And definitely in all of my work, you can see that. So that makes it big.
In any of your experiences with the patients, did any of that come out in stories like in Twisted and Torn and changed a little bit?
Not in any of the stories I've done lately. I do have a project going on right now. It's not the Cottonwood Prestige. It's a different one. And that is an actual story so I used to always ignore that advice where they say, write what you know. Because I'm like, well, what if I want to write about zombies in a pandemic? Like, I don't know that. So and because I had kind of that secondary trauma and issues going on, I didn't really want to write about the field. But I eventually gave in, and I did write a story about it where I combined and brought in all my knowledge and information, just not from my perspective, but the youth I worked with and other staff members. So I definitely had to come up with a more creative way to change the characters and events and all the stuff going on. So when that book comes out, that'll be the one. I figured, and it's a little long, it's a little big. So I'm working on that, but that's going to be my like stamp on it, where it's like I'm doing it once and I'm never doing it again. So I'm just going to throw everything into it. And yeah, so hopefully I'm hoping that'll be ready in a year or so. Might be a little longer than that, but yeah, definitely I've started doing that. I've always tried to keep my books a little tame, just on the off chance, like I said, if former patients were to read them, I didn't want them to be too over the top. So I've always tried to keep them in mind.
That's one thing they always told me as a paramedic. Start keeping notes, because one day you could write a great book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
45 years later. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I already in my mind have the scene in my head where I'm doing like a round table with people. And I just told you about that one book after it comes out, and they go, so how much of that is true? Like when you wrote this scene, was that true? Or which one was, that's going to be the fun, is everyone taking a guess of like, I wonder if this was actually accurate. Because there's a lot of me in the story, and there's a lot of things that happened to the main character that were reality. So, yeah.
If you notice when you go in the room, if they lock the door behind you, you might be concerned.
Might be concerned. I'm a little worried. I'm even more concerned when everyone doesn't talk to me. They must know my secrets. No.
Oh, they're reading your mind.
They are.
It's a scary place.
You may not want to be in my mind. You may not want to read it. It's kind of a weird, strange place. Sometimes in a scary way, and sometimes in just a really dorky, too entertaining, nerdy way too. So I'm on the whole spectrum.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you, any of alien stuff?
Oh yeah, that's my book, Question 17. Actually, that's one of my other novels. That one just got released this summer too. It's the only one that's not on a second edition. It's the first edition. So yeah, that story. The main character's name is Corey, and he lives in one of the many countries that got reformed after an alien war, and that's where the story takes place. It's 46 years after an alien invasion. Earth has this big war. Earth wins. Now it's 46 years later. Okay, so. And he gets an internship because he's at this prestigious academy, and he gets an internship at a very secret facility on an island in the middle of the ocean, and it's called the Willow Lock. And there on the island, they do experiments and tests, and he rises up and eventually becomes an apprentice to the director there. And that's where he discovers like the island was created when the founders at the time of the end of the war, they came up with a list of 27 questions. Like, can we duplicate their technology? Can we cross their DNA? Can we, et cetera, and et cetera. And so the whole island is basically to solve all those questions. And there's only one left, which is question 17. And so he gets involved in that and the causes and the reasons why they have it. And then of course the effects, and he gets in trouble and kind of helps out with it. But yeah, that's all based on aliens and alien invasions. Oh yeah, if you love aliens, that's the story. That's the novel you want.
That will be the one for me.
That would be the one.
It is. I'm not a horror guy. Harley will tell you, I'm not a horror guy. So
I'll be reading the horror books. Not
yeah. Well, Mythglow isn't too horror either. That one's a little more mystery and historical fiction for that book. That's one of my other novels. That one's centered around World War II, time of Pearl Harbor. So,
my son would love that because he's big into like world wars and all that stuff.
Yeah. So now that it just popped in my head when you were asking about inspiration earlier, Roosevelt's Secret War. That's a great book because that's the rise of the SOS, who eventually became the CIA. That book inspired me a lot, actually. That with Midglow and Immune. That one did. That was a great novel. I always recommend that one.
I'll have to look into that one. I don't recall that one.
That was a good book. Still have it. It's on my bookshelf. I could probably find it.
So all this stuff with isolationism and dark backgrounds.
Yeah.
Is, you say a little bit of you is in every one. Is that kind of where you were at some point in your life, or is that just a release?
Release for the most part. I had a really good childhood for the most part. I mean, I had some family members that now looking back, as an adult, I kind of go, well, that wasn't quite right, but I never felt like I was having a bad childhood, if that makes sense. So most of it's from more experience. I mean, I did have some troubles in my 20s that I had to get through and conquer, and so there a little bit of that comes into my stories. But a little bit of both, I would say, me and other people, and then just stuff I've read.
We all
other
have that
characters.
crazy Uncle Larry or Wendell.
Oh yeah,
There's
I had
always
many. It was pretty much crazy family. Everyone.
Yeah, well, are you originally from the Dakotas?
Yes, born and raised South Dakota. Never.
Okay.
Yep, born and raised here in the Black Hills. Yep, I moved. I've lived in other towns for short periods of times, but for the most part, yeah, love it.
Is there any,
Very pretty.
Yep. Is there any cryptid activity or alien activity around that area?
I don't know about cryptic or alien. There's definitely more hauntings. There's a lot of ghost stories. So like Deadwood, we have right next to us. So there's the Bullock Hotel, a few other hotels that have been claimed to be haunted. And then we have a few cemeteries in the area claimed to be haunted as well. But I'd say there's more of that stuff than aliens. If there are aliens, I'm not sure. We don't have any Bigfoot sightings or anything like that. A lot of legends from Native American groups. We have, excuse me. Yeah, a lot of their legends, a lot of stories. I'm trying to remember. There's this really cool story. I'll have to look it up about a hill that was a battlefield, and the Native Americans wouldn't go near it because it was just a haunted space, and they wouldn't even touch it. I can't remember now for the life of me, but
well, during the exploration phase of our country's history, there was a lot of folklore come out of that area, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Black Hills has so many stories. Well, it's a very sacred area for the Lakota Sioux. That's our indigenous tribes around here, and they had it for a long time. And then the government, they signed a treaty for them, and that we wouldn't explore it or do anything. And then of course they discovered gold, and the army tried to keep white people out of it as long as they could, but then eventually just gave up, and we kind of just took over the land. And that bitterness is still there around the area. But yeah, definitely trying to help each other and definitely learning from each other. I know a lot of youth who've told me some great stories about their culture, and they call the North America Turtle Island, and if you look at a map of North America, it looks like a turtle. And so it's always amazing how they've called it Turtle Island way before they even knew what the continent looked like. So it was interesting.
I've never put that together.
Yeah.
You just said that. I've never put that together. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you won't have an alien experience now that you've said, no, nothing here.
Well, maybe I do. I don't know. I kind of like it. It might be interesting. Might be fun, depending on how. I don't want him to I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night and staring down over me. Yeah.
Don't take the probing.
Yeah, I don't do the probing.
Say no to the probe.
Right. Though, have you ever seen Paul? I love that movie. The movie Paul, if anyone's ever seen it. I love that line where he goes, "Are you going to probe me?" And he goes, "Why does everyone always assume that? What am I doing? Am I harvesting farts? What am I going to learn from an ass?" Like, I love that part. That was just
That's
funny.
like the first South Park episode where where Cartman gets the big
anal probe. Yeah.
thing out of his butt.
Yeah, that was great.
We had a guy at the fire station. He was Muslim, and whenever he'd get transferred to a new shift, they'd always be like, "Okay, we're American. Do you want to kill us?" And he's like, "Why does everybody ask me that?"
Yeah.
So yeah, get it.
Yeah, it might be fun to have aliens though. Yeah.
Well, it
sure
depends.
there are.
If there's probably, like everything else, there's probably good ones and bad ones. So.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, there has to be. The universe is too big. You just can't say there's nothing because it's just too big.
Well, I mean, we thought we knew everything, and this stupid comet comes by, and we realize we don't know anything. We can't even get a good picture of it.
Yeah. Okay.
So, well, maybe the military can, but not us little people. So, yeah, and they were like, we don't know where it comes from. We don't know where it's going, and we can't really tell you what it looks like. So,
yeah.
Thanks. That's my tax-paying dollars. So,
well, now the way the world is, they would probably land, and we would videotape it, and everyone would just say it's AI, and then the aliens would get bored and leave, probably.
Yes.
No, I told you it's like in The Simpsons. The aliens are above us and watching everything we're doing and just laughing at us because we're all a bunch of idiots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're just a show for them, and they're just like, yeah, next episode of Earth.
That's what when we go camping, that's actually what we always say, because the best experiences as far as Bigfoot are usually in base camp. And because I'm the communications officer and paramedic, that's where I usually am. And so I've had some of the best experiences. And one of the researchers was saying, he goes, we're out here, we're their cable TV. They don't have anything else. So they want to come see what they can do to us.
Right.
It's true. That's some of my best experiences.
Absolutely.
In any of your books, I meant to ask you this last time. Have you incorporated any emergency services, firefighters, paramedics, cops, anything?
Oh, geez. Let me think here now for a moment. Let's see. I know in Immune, I probably do. I have some few scenes with cops. I was trying to think. Well, with Eugene, or not Eugene, sorry. In my next novel, Conwood Prestige, there's Daryl the detective. That's the first time I've really tried the detective angle and actually tried to get into that, which was good and inspiring and interesting. I had to do a little research for that one and get a little insight on dialogue, because it's like, everyone sounds Midwestern. If I am not careful enough, I got to make sure the dialogue's good. But no, I wouldn't say I've done too much with that field. I'd like to. I'm a little nervous to do a full mystery novel, just because they confuse me a little easily. I get too confused. I'm not one of those people that can, when I read like a big mystery novel and like on page 34, I'm like, oh yeah, that explains why. Because I remember on page 27 when someone mentioned da 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 da, and then that I can't. I'm not one of those people. My brain doesn't work that way. So I want to do detective and mysteries, but I'm like,
well, your detective can't be Batman. So
yeah, exactly. As long as you're not Batman, no.
Exactly. I don't know if Batman could survive in that environment.
No kidding.
His tights would be awfully cold.
Exactly. And in a few of my stories, I have at least like a constable or a sheriff. I'd say that's about as much as I do.
Okay.
Glenn, he'd have to have fleece line tights.
There you go.
Do they have that?
Yes, they do.
Fleece
I wear
line.
fleece line leggings, and my hoodie's fleece lined.
Oh.
I live in the north. Of course, there's fleece lined everything here. Fleece lined gloves, fleece lined hat.
Socks. Yeah, wool socks. I have wool socks. Fleece and wool. That's the
fleece line lingerie. All right. So
I don't know how well that would work, but
I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to go that route.
That might be a little too sweaty.
Cover up too many of the bits and pieces.
Yeah, that sounds a little too sweaty for me.
Yeah. Well, I did have it's a funny story. You reminded me. One of my first flights, when I was a flight paramedic, and we were told, you're going to Boston, you're going to be up there for the night, you're going to come back. And I had a pair of winter boxers. I came right from the firehouse, and I was like, we're going to Boston. And so I put them on. I had on my thermals, and we go to Boston. And right when we're done with our mission there, they say, hey, you got to hop to Philadelphia, and then you're going down to Barbados, and you're going to have to stay for a couple days. And I'm like, no.
Right.
I was miserable. I learned after that, pack for hot, pack for cold.
Yeah.
I was miserable.
So if I have a character with that job description, I got to call you. That's what I'm hearing right now. I got to give you a call.
I'll be there for you. Actually, I've had two authors contact me. One, she's doing a book where there's some kind of terrorist event, and she wants to know about how the command system and all this works. So I helped her. And then another one was something about some type of huge fire. I don't remember now. And they're like, oh, we'll give you credit. And I'm like, I don't care. That was just fun. So send me a free copy. How about
there
that?
You go. Well, I'll give you credit, but it's got to be like a funny entry where it's like, thank you so much for making me sound not like an idiot. Like, that's like acknowledgement of that sort.
It's funny. That's actually, I don't remember if she's one of Mickey's or not. I read her first book, and I messaged her and I said, hey, I just want to let you know, because if you ever get any flack when you did this with the ambulance workers, this was wrong. And I said, I'm not giving you grief. I loved your book. I thought it was great. And she's like, oh, okay. And so she was one that called me, and then she told me like 2 of her friends to call me. And it was just, I wasn't trying to be mean, but I'm like, somebody's going to catch this one. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's good to know those things. Yeah, absolutely.
I guess.
Someone will catch it.
Well, that's the thing. And you're never going to please everybody. So.
No, you're not. You're never going to make everyone happy. So. Yeah.
No.
You never know. Well, it's interesting when I read reviews. I usually don't read a lot of reviews if I buy a book, because usually I don't want to read long. Some people write too long of a review where they summarize like every chapter and I'm like, I already read the back of the book description. It hooked me in. I don't need to know the rest. But even still, yeah, someone might hate a book, and it might be for a reason I'm not going to hate a book. Someone might love it for reasons I might not love it. So yeah, you got to take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
and even still, they're not accurate. I bought a story one time because all the reviews said, "Oh, the best thriller, the greatest," da da da. And then I read it, and I'm like, "This isn't a thriller at all. There's nothing literally happened in the whole book. There was like 2 crises, and 3 pages later, it was solved, and there was nothing. It was like, this isn't a thriller. I'm like, nothing's happening."
I had that happen with this series that I read. It was like 12 books, and it was supposed to have been like the best dirty smut book series there was, and
yeah,
there was very little of any of it. And I'm like,
yeah,
I listened to 12 books for this,
right?
Hey, I read everything, and you already know that. I was pretty much read every. Yeah, your books are going to be in my library here very soon, and I will be reading them. I read every author who comes on our podcast. I read their books.
Yeah, my partner would love it if I wrote a little more dark, slutty, more smutty kind of stuff. I just
this may sound horrible, okay? I found the best ones are written by males.
Really? Okay.
Seriously, completely. Like, I've read some that were written by female. I've only read one set that was written by a female that I absolutely have listened to over and over.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of them that are like that have been written by males.
Really? Okay. It's good to know.
That's a genre. Actually,
oh, it is. That's a big genre.
It's not just a genre; it's a whole lifestyle. Like, it's all over TikTok. They've made music about it.
Oh yeah, it's the most popular genre right now.
Like, there's a whole category of TikTok about that.
Oh yeah,
I'm apparently behind. I did not know that.
Like, they make like there's songwriters making songs about these books.
Wow. Well, I do know. I interviewed an author once, and she was telling me that you could tell in a sex scene if it was written by a man or a woman. And I was like, I don't understand how.
You can, because with like the females who write these books, they're not as dark and smutty as they need to be for these books.
Oh.
Like, with their male characters, they're a little soft.
All right.
Soft is
not right notes. Take this down. And
soft's not soft's not a term that you want with dark smut.
Gotcha. Seth, you didn't realize we would take you down this highway, did you?
Oh, that's fine, because I get told all the time I should get into that field too. So I always get told
you would make a lot of money from that field. I'm serious.
I know. I don't know why I'm hesitant. I think it's because I have my grandma. If you knew my grandma, I think
that's why you write under an alias when it comes.
That's what
to
someone
that.
else mentioned that too. I should write with an alias.
I have my favorite female author. She does not write under her name because she knows she doesn't want her family to know that she writes this type of books.
Right.
And her books are amazing. She's the only female author that I love her dark smut.
Okay. Well, and I think I also worry too, just because of the client, ex-clients and other people I've known, and just the
that's
field
why
I've
you
worked
do
in.
it under an alias.
I know. I thought of that. I've been told that too, right? By an alias.
Yeah, that's and I've been surprised by guest with an alias. So, but that's a whole nother story. She wrote paranormal porn, and she thought that's what I invited her on the show for.
Hey, I'd read it. I would absolutely read it.
It wasn't. I was like, what? That's a thing?
There are so many categories in that field right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, is there a genre you really want to, besides for this, dip your toe? Probably. Dip your toe in, just your toe, nothing else.
Oh, geez. Well, like I'd mentioned before, a mystery, a crime mystery of some sort, or some sort of psychological thriller. Definitely, I would love to try. I really would also like to do an Old West. It's kind of a Western. I've yet to really. I've always started some, and then they would just kind of fizzle out after a few thousand words, and I just didn't have any inspiration to keep going, so I would just let them go. Definitely that Western mystery genres, and then the romantic, whatever we want to call it, the paranormal smutty.
When you, like you said, you'll write something, then you just like put it aside. Do you keep it for later, or is it?
It depends. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It just, like I said, if it's something where I'm like, I could maybe come back to it, then I will. I have a folder that's full of them.
You could do a horror dark smut.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because like that whole ghost face thing, it's huge. And the mask, it's huge.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I see TikTok videos all the time on that kind of stuff. Like the murderer comes to my house and he thinks I'm going to scream, and then they pretend to be sexy or something. It's like, okay.
Well, that's like the last book that I just finished. The girl was looking at thirst traps of a guy with ghost face on, and
yes. Yes, thirst.
Yeah,
thank you. I just heard of that too, like in the last few months. I had not heard of that ever.
It's guys who have like no shirts on with the ghost face mask, and
okay.
Thirst trapped is basically, from what I'm hearing, is you dress provocative as a way to seduce for attention. Which, when I was a kid, it was just called attention seeking and flirty behavior or whatever. We got to change the name of everything. Everything doesn't get reinvented. It just gets renamed. That's what we do now.
I just covered a news article about that today in my daily news show. The nurse that was encouraging people to like stick people with needles and stuff, if you didn't agree with them, posted somewhere, all hot chicks make thirst traps to attract people, and then when you get them there, poison their drinks. I was like, what?
Yeah, jeez.
So
what is the world coming to?
Oh yeah. Seth, have you had any more paranormal experiences or anything since we last chatted?
Oh, not really, though. I had thought of a story. I didn't know if I told you. Now, because I think when I was on here last, I told you about my house growing up as a child. It was haunted. And there are a few stories, and I don't know if I told you about my sister's story, where I don't know, I don't remember how old I was, but I remember sleeping, and all of a sudden my sister screamed in the middle of the night. And of course we're all like, what the heck? And so we checked in on her and she was fine. Well, she didn't say anything. So then the next morning we asked her, we said, hey, what was your screaming about? And she goes, oh, that ghost lady just visited me. And we're like, well, what do you mean? Well, my sister had this huge vanity and a big mirror. And she said when she woke up, the ghost was just sitting there brushing her hair in front of the mirror. And then like she turned and like looked at her and just kind of smiled. And she said, that's when I screamed. And I was like, that's when I realized she wasn't going to hurt me. She was just brushing her hair. And it's like, okay.
That's interesting.
Was she in the mirror or was she on this
No,
side?
she was sitting on the bench in front of the vanity looking at the mirror. Yeah.
Creepy.
I forgot about that. I was like, oh, I didn't tell that story. Yeah.
That's creepy.
No. I haven't had too many paranormal events. The only one I would say that comes close is I read a book on a haunting South Dakota. I forget what the title was, but basically all the hauntings and ghost stories of South Dakota. And I didn't mind it, but I was a little disappointed because they were missing a lot of like major ones, like the Bullock Hotel, which was so popular. There was an Unsolved Mysteries episode about it. I'm like, how do you not have that one? I actually stayed in that hotel, and it was kind of creepy. Also, too, when I stayed at the oh shoot, now I can't think of what it's called. The hotel at Estes Park that was inspired Stephen King for The Shining. I stayed there too. That was kind of creepy. You got a few of the vibes, the Shining vibes when you were there. You could see how it inspired him. Oh, it's gonna bug me now that I can't remember what it's called. The hotel.
Did you know they took the house that was Scream was filmed in and
Mhm.
turned it into a Airbnb
No, I didn't know that.
so you could stay in the house now?
Oh
Nope.
wow.
Nope.
I absolutely would, 100%.
You do not have to worry about me showing up. So,
Well, I can't talk. Like I said, I stayed in the hotel that was from The Shining. So
Well, here in Ohio, there's the Mohican Castle, and that
okay.
place is extremely haunted. And we got the Mansfield Prison,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so much haunted here in Ohio because, well, Ohio's one of the first, so many states that were in the first became, and
Yeah.
with the war and everything, it's so haunted
Crazy.
here.
Wendell in our chat is yelling at you.
He asked, "Have you seen Bigfoot or Dogman?"
I have not seen Bigfoot or Dogman. In South Dakota, we don't have. I've seen the
Wendell,
movie
stop
Cowboys.
using caps and quit yelling.
I've seen the movie Cowboys and Aliens. I've seen that with Harrison Ford. I saw that movie.
And I don't think any of the Dakotas are a big dogman area.
No, we're not. We don't have a lot of that around here.
Just to say, I don't even know that I could recall hearing any Bigfoot stories. So I'm sure there may be, but I don't recall any.
I don't recall any Bigfoot stories. No, we do like to have the snipe. We do like that. We tell people to go snipe hunting.
Oh, yes.
We do that.
No.
No.
Well, Seth, tell everybody where they can get your stuff. No, I was on the other end of it. I was in dispatch. I had nothing to do with it.
Right.
Tell everybody where they can get your stuff. Said we're in Australia as well, so for them as well.
Well, obviously Amazon, because you can get everything on Amazon, so you can get them from there. Any online bookstore, really, like Barnes and Noble, Book and Mortar, pretty much any bookstore that's online, you can order from them most likely, as long as Ingram's the publisher and they're the biggest one in the world. So I would assume it's majority of them. So you can get those as well. I do ask that everyone, if you can't find my book, go into your local bookstore and ask them to be on their shelves. Be like, hey, I want this book from Seth Voorhees. And yeah, I encourage everyone to just walk in and have it be put on the bookshelves for sure. But yeah, any online bookstore and Amazon. You can also go to my website and do some research and just figure out more about the books. That's SethVoorhees.com. So you can go there just for more insight and information. I am on all the social medias, TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. So author Voorhees on TikTok. Yep. So you can just, though I'm not going to lie, there's not a lot of great inspiration on there. Lately, it's been taken over by our pet rabbit named Snowball. And so there's a lot of that.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong. It's become his channel. My author TikTok account is just becoming the Snowball channel, to be honest with you, which is fun because you know what? People would probably rather buy a book from Snowball than me anyway. He's probably got more appeal.
Hey, whatever sells.
That's right. Whatever sells.
Seth, are you going to come back and visit us again?
I will come back as much as you need to, as much as you want me to. I'll come back.
Don't tease us. So.
I need to try and get more paranormal experiences, though. I need to come back with better story. I need to look up. I'm sure with the Black Hills, there's so many stories of the woods, and I'm about witches, and I'm sure we gotta figure this out. Gotta do some research.
One of my other co-hosts, she just fills in for Harley, but she's been on fairly frequently. She's an author, and that's how we recruited her. She did a show and said, "I'd love to have you." And one night, Harley was out sick or something. I was like, I messaged her. I'm like, "Hey, you free tonight?"
There you go. Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, hit me up on Facebook. I can make that happen. So
sounds good.
All right, Seth. We'll try and stay warm.
I'll do my best.
You all won't get too much snow here on the east. We're going to get it with this one. So
I know you guys are getting all of our snow. That's how it's been the last few years. The East Coast.
I said this on my show earlier. Send that Yankee dander back. We don't want it down here in the south.
Right. Well, we don't want it either. We're like, it's been fun.
It's good one time. Remember, it's like one.
I don't want it here anymore. Y'all can keep it.
It's like one and done. We're done with it.
Right?
So.
Anyway, that's enough.
All right, Seth. Well, have a great night. Thank you for coming on. We'll talk to you soon. Like I said, hit me up on Facebook. Find me on Facebook at Sportcat
I will.
or something like that. So, all right, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Bye.
Well, that was a great episode, Harley. So it was. So next week, let me pull up my calendar here. What month are we in? February 4th. Next
Do
week.
they have pictures? Does who have pictures? The books?
I don't know. Next week,
Relic Films asked if there's pictures.
Oh, well, next week we have MD Selig, and you might not recognize that name, but he has been in several movies, and also has got some books out. And I have a surprise EDM guest, EDM, electronic dance music guest. She's going to come on and talk to us about her music. So I'll be back tomorrow. You can check me out on the Sportcat Daily Gazette. Harley, where are you going to be?
Saturday we're doing cartoon theme song bracket, and Sunday we're doing our show on the woman who is now on death row in Tennessee for the first time in 100 years. First woman.
Okay.
And we do have a new co-host joining us.
Oh, you have to tell me about that. I'll get jealous. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and allowing us to tickle your ears. Please remember, cost you nothing, hit that thumbs up, like, share, subscribe, send cash, whatever. So we take it all. Everybody have a great night. We will see you next Wednesday, or we'll see you tomorrow on the Sportcat Daily Gazette.
Be right back.